Happy birthday to me. Hey, burn the witch, fuck a bitch. We went to the river to catch some fish. Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums, and today, um, it's my birthday. But also, I would take some time out to do an album review on an album that I've been waiting ever since I was 3 years old. Uh, Tool. Um, Fear Inoculum. So, um, yeah, I have already been waiting for this album for 13 years. And I didn't even know who is Tool until I was like 14 or 15. But yeah, last time they dropped an album, I was literally 3 years old. I could barely speak English, and now I'm 17. I know that it doesn't add up 13 years. I'm 17, it should be 4, but then actually, if you look at the date, I was actually 3. But anyway, Tool is an alt metal, math metal, prog, doom metal band from LA, and they had been dropping a lot of, not a lot of albums. Not a lot, actually. They dropped Undertow a long time ago, like 2 decades ago, which is this rough take on prog and doom metal, which is actually kind of impressive and filthy. But when they dropped Anima, they kind of hit a peak in their career, because Anima is, I think, one of the best albums ever, period. A lot of amazing tracks like 46 and 2, Stinkfist, Push It, and the title track. And then in the year 2001, they dropped Lateralis, which is an even more philosophical and meditative take on prog metal and doom metal, and that's what makes it so special. There are literally moments on the album where it feels like it transcends beyond existence and consciousness and, mind, body, spirit combined into one, ascended from heaven. It's really out of body experience. It's a holy experience. And then we have to wait for another 5 years until they dropped the fourth studio album, 10,000 Days, and surprisingly, it's equally as good as Lateralis, in my opinion. It's a little darker, it's a little edgier, but the production is way nicer. The guitar riffs, they are way more intriguing, and the performances are way more aggressive. Yeah, and also there are some bangers like the Pot, the gigantic mutinous track that is Rosetta Stoned, the incredibly dark and chilling title track, and Right in Two is a great track. The reason why I really love Tool as a band not only limits to the great vocals by Maynard James Keenan, the amazing octopus drummer Danny Carey, the amazing bass from Justin Chancellor, and the great album art, and the guitarist Alex Jones. But also they make some amazing killer kick-ass guitar riffs, some odd time signatures, some epic guitar solos and drum solos, and with these philosophical, poetic lyrics, and together they form these amazing, life-affirming, gigantic metal ragers that are not as much angry, but more empowering and visceral. Anyway, I should just stop, talking about how great Tool is, because this album is not like that. It's unfortunately, I have to say it, I've been waiting for this album for a long time. Indeed. And I hate to say this, but I'm disappointed. I'm honestly really disappointed. First of all, Fear Inoculum is easily the longest Tool album yet, over 90 minutes long, but only 6 core tracks and a bunch of other pointless interludes sort of in between. And also, this album is way more meditative and way more improvised, and the production is way cleaner, which makes the vibe, and the attitude and the texture of the tracks way less entertaining and way less intense. And also just the guitar riffs on the track and the chord progressions on basically all of the tracks on the album, they're kind of one note and they're kind of flat and basic. If you compare the songs on Fear Inoculum to any other songs on any other Tool album, Fear Inoculum is clearly more inferior than any of their past material, unfortunately. And it's not impossible to make a great comeback album. I mean, look at A Tribe Called Quest. Look at D'Angelo. Look at friggin' Godspeed You Black Emperor. And certainly, Tool sounds like they have kind of lost their angry spirit with the, killer, kick-ass guitar riffs. And instead on this album, they just wanted to make some long-winded jams with some aimless instrumental solos and passages, and a lot of the tracks here are actually kind of boring, unfortunately. Anyway, we have the title track, which is also a single, and immediately, right from the first second, I can already tell that this album is not going to live up to the hype at all. Instead of the odd explosive riffs of Stinkfist or the pummeling, enraging guitars on The Grudge, or the incredibly intoxicating Vicarious, Fear Inoculum, the title track, just fades in from behind. And, the guitars, they sort of creep up from beneath these little tom drums that sound kind of tribal and crispy, which I love. They sort of appear very slowly, and then MJK sort of, just smoothly slides into the song. And then that's basically the song. It's over 10 minutes long, and it feels like 3 hours. I mean, the performances are great, and the instrumentals, they are fantastic. As always, Danny Carey delivers some of his best drumming performance yet, but the guitar riffs on the thing is so flat and so basic, and there isn't much in terms of dynamic, not much in terms of verses or choruses or structure at all, and it's kind of a bore, unfortunately. Then we have the second track, Pneuma, which is also over 10 minutes long, and again it sounds pretty similar to the title. And again, it sounds pretty similar to the title track of the thing, except on Pneuma we get some skippy guitars that kind of hit hard, but at the same time are kind of flat and basic. And once in a while, MJK would, spit a line or two and then fade back into the background again. And, at the very end of the track, it sort of, builds up to a climactic ending, which isn't really that great of an ending anyway. It's just kind of an average climax. Another giant track from the album is Invincible, where instrumentally it's actually way more advanced and slightly more entertaining than the first two tracks, but it still manages to kind of disappoint me, and not because it's flat and basic, but it's kind of in bad taste. At first, it's slow, it's very quiet, not much happens, and then midway through the track, suddenly it just switches into aimless chugging. The guitar riffs just chugging and chugging and chugging for no reason. It doesn't sound like it's serving the song in a stronger light. It's not reinforcing the song or anything. And then suddenly we have a surprise drum solo, which sounds incredibly dry and toothless. And then we get these sci-fi distorted synths, which sound absolutely crappy. Tool had never really incorporated these kind of synths in their music before, and when they do that, it sounds kind of horrendous, actually. And then we have the track Descending, which had been teased for a very, very long time, because they have been playing the song in live shows for a long time already. And I actually quite like the track. At first, we get these beach sounds, and then again, the beach sounds die down, and, we slowly and quietly build into the track, which is another pretty average and flat beginning for a Tool song. The guitar riffs, they are kind of average, but what really stole the show for me is MJK's vocals. They are harmonious, they are compelling, and they're kind of beautiful actually. And around the 7-minute mark, we get a soaring guitar solo, which is actually really fantastic. Finally, the song is consolidating into something solid. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the sliding electric guitars, I still really like the constantly pummeling bass of the track, and instrumentally, at the second half, it's way more entertaining than many other moments on the album. We also have the track Culling Voices, which is easily the quietest and the most safe playing Then we have the track Culling Voices, which is easily the quietest and the most safe track on the entire album. But I actually like this track a lot because it's not trying to do some crazy, weird, experimental stuffs, and usually on this album it just goes completely wrong. But Tool plays safe on the track, and the track feels kind of sincere and humble, actually. And also, this track is really slow and really moody. It's legitimately meditative in a way. You can really sink into the track and sort of blend your mind and your presence into the atmospheric background, and it's pretty amazing. I don't know why my nose is itching, but there's that. And at the end, of course, it had to build to a climax, but honestly, I don't see that as a problem because it's a pretty sweet finish to a long, moody, meditative track. Another track, actually the track that I think is the best on the entire album, it's Tempest, with the T replaced with a 7, Tempest, and this is easily the most hard-hitting, the most raw, wild, exciting, and entertaining track on the entire album. It's super exciting. The guitar riffs, they are just triumphant, but they're also challenging and fun, and I just wish that there are more tracks like Tempest on the album. My biggest complaint with the track is that the singing is a little one note. It's actually very one note, like literally just one note being sung, but the instrumentals, the guitar riffs, the progression of the track, it's pretty amazing. It's almost like we're getting a glimpse of the good old Tool once again. Oh my gosh. At the 7:43-minute mark, and also at the very end around the 11-minute mark, we get these scratchy, noodly guitar riffs, which are impressive and just candies to the ears. And overall, the drums of the thing, damn, the drums, they are amazing. The toms are crispy clear. And then we have the interludes, which kinda suck and kinda disappointed me, because Tool is used to be known for be really experimental and really creative when it comes to sound play. However, the interludes on this album, they are lifeless, they're toothless, and they feel kinda pointless and aimless. We have the first interlude called Litanie, Contre la Peur, I think, meaning litany for fear, against fear, and it's basically a small track where we get these sci-fi analog synths, and it just sounds absolutely horrendous. It's stretched to 2 minutes long. Then we get another interlude called Legion Inoculent, and it's this really toothless and awkward interlude that feels like a big mess and nothing else. We also get an interlude called Mocking Beat at the very end of the track list, which actually sounds kind of good. It's this aviary mayhem with a lot of messy percussions that go together really well with these bird noises, and even though it's not as intriguing or as cryptic of an ending when comparing to the endings of, say, 10,000 Days or Lateralis, it's still a pretty good interlude, I guess. It's still decent. My favorite interlude on the album, also one of my favorite tracks on the album, it's Chocolate Chip Trip. Basically, it is a 5-minute long interlude. Yes, 5 minutes, and it's short, in Tool standards. And it's this interlude where we get this choppy electronic beat running throughout the entire track with these hustly bustly percussions underneath, boiling underneath, and it just gets wilder and wilder throughout the entire track. And I really, really enjoy it. I thought it's really sticky, memorable, and it's entertaining. Really, really entertaining. But that's pretty much the extent of the album. Most of the tracks on the album feel kind of flat and basic, not only in the standards of Tool, but also in the standard of any other metal bands out there right now, unfortunately. Even though there are some legitimately great moments on the album, like on Tempest or the interlude Chocolate Chip Trip, but most of the album just feels kinda toothless, kinda improvised 90%, kinda, aimless, kinda, and very spacey, kinda, and I'm just not that impressed. In fact, this album feels really lackluster. It's a letdown, and it's easily the worst Tool album to date. And I guess I have to wait for another album in the next 2 decades or something. But really, if you think about it, none of the tracks on this album can really fight against some of the other tracks that Tool had released in the past. But really, if you think about it, none of the tracks on this album can really go head-to-head with some of the tracks Tool had released in the past. Unlike the really odd and explosive and kind of warm Stinkfist, the very intoxicating and sort of dizzying guitar riffs on Push It, the incredibly angry and tight Anima title track, the dark and hypnotic Sober, the violent Prison Sex, the incredibly dark and spine-chilling 10,000 Days, the very toxic Vicarious, which is a great and exciting opener for 10,000 Days, of course, the very raw and crunchy and catchy The Pot, the mutinous, freaky, multifaceted monster Frankenstein that is Rosetta Stoned, the epic dramatic, right into the incredibly empowering and visceral Parabola, the primal and epic The Grudge, the very primal and epic The Grudge, and of course the very mathematic masterpiece that is Lateralis title track. None of the tracks on Fear Inoculum can compete with those tracks, okay? And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm sorry. I respect Tool, and I respect your opinion as well, and I hope that you would respect mine as well. And with that being said, I think the instrumentals on the album are still pretty great, but that's just pretty much the extent of the greatness of the album. My least favorite track here is Litanie Contre la Peur, and my favorite track here is Tempest. I am giving Tool's Fear Inoculum a strong 5 out of 10. So, have you listened to the new Tool album from 1 to 10? How much did you rate it? Like if you like it, hate it, and subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching.